charge that the telcos actually need you to pay? We'll try to understand this in the next 1 hour. You're welcome to the show. I'm Wemimo Adewuni.
I'm Sheriff Quadry. Promises to be an interesting conversation. That's why we will be taking your conversation to online, our socials, on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, and of course on WhatsApp. Our WhatsApp line is 0809 597 5805. That is 0809 597 5805. You can tweet us at CoolF at I always say this.
Caught you.
This is the third time I'm saying this. You can tweet us at Nigeria Info FM. That's at Nigeria. Pardon me, please. At Nigeria Info FM on Twitter, on Facebook and YouTube. We are Nigeria Info 99.3. Nigeria Info 99.3. Let the conversation begin. Well, Olajide is here with us. Well, is a chartered accountant and public policy analyst. Good morning to you. Well, once again.
Good morning.
We have Francis Oko on the line. Francis Oko is a web developer. Francis Oko, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Good morning. Our correspondent, Good News Ndukwe, went on the street and asked questions about the USSD code. If Nigerians understand it, are they still angry after the suspension? Listen to this.
The House has sat over it and they've been told to stop that nonsense. That's ripping. You want to kill us? VAT 7 points. They had better be careful. I also will start revolution now.
They are just making everything difficult in Nigeria. I don't know where they want to chase us to. VAT, they increased to 7.5%. Today at the petrol station, they charge 50 naira extra for transaction charge. They're just making things difficult. I don't know where they want us to go in this country. God will help us.
We put NEPA online. I go to the market online. If I do like 10 transactions, charge me like 14 naira. Sometimes if I go to the bank, I want to withdraw money. Or if you want to pay cash, and I say no, go and use your application. You won't charge me for that.
I recharge 150. I can't find it on my phone. I still recharge 100 naira. I can't find it. It was so upset.
All the policies that has been coming in place as far as the country is concerned are policies that does not favor the masses in the country. Basically, what do you expect? When they pass a law, there's nothing you can do about it. You just have to pay. You understand? But people should also come up and fight against some of these laws and some of these unexpected and corrupt acts.
We need to resist devil, and he must definitely flee away. We are not taking that. That is exploitation. That is very, very bad. It's uncalled for. We will resist it. We don't want it. Why did they want to start inflicting hardship on us? Already we are going through hardship already. They are still inflicting more on us.
Resist the devil.
I found that quite interesting.
It's so very interesting. Well, the press
so
statement.
Who is the devil?
The press statement released by the Ministry of Communications late Sunday evening reads, the attention of the Federal Ministry of Communications has been drawn to the viral text message allegedly sent by the mobile network operator MTN Nigeria and other mobile operators notifying subscribers of a 4 naira charge per 20 seconds on USSD access to banking services from the 21st of October. The Office of the Honorable Minister of Communications, Dr. Issa Ali Ibrahim Pantami, is unaware of this development and has thereby directed the sector regulator, that is the Nigeria Communications Commission, ensures the operator suspends such plans until the Honorable Minister is fully and properly briefed. Until the Honorable Minister is fully and properly briefed.
So it's a suspension.
It's a suspension. Suspension is important because you now need to, for example, we heard that other networks have been charging. Right. So it's MTN that has not been charging.
Right.
So if other network have been charging, do they require an authority to have done that? If they have not required an authority and they have been charging, are they? If we are saying they should not charge, are you going to get them to refund? If they are charging, why should MTN not be able to charge? So it requires an investigation, no doubt about that. It's only after we now have all the cards on the table, then the government can make a firm decision on what needs to happen. But like I was saying during the news, the telecommunication is an economic infrastructure. It's very critical. It's like a backbone.
Right.
And whether it's financial services, whether it's communication, security, everything revolves around that infrastructure. So it's a very critical one. Now, when you do the USSD, you are using that infrastructure. And the cost of infrastructure in Nigeria, of maintaining this infrastructure in Nigeria, is not the same as in other places. So, which is why sometimes when people compare our course. I'm like, no, I was in that industry for a period, and I know
it takes a lot.
It takes a whole lot. Those terminals that we do all over the whole place, to run those terminals on generators, to deal with area boys, to deal with people who will tell you that you can't do anything on that terminal unless you give them this and this, to deal with theft, is a whole lot of issues. So the cost is very high. Having said that, however, if we're not careful, we may drift towards killing the horse, or is it the donkey this time around?
The
in the process of trying to get more money, when you kill that donkey, then you're actually not going to get anything.
Right.
That is the reality.
Right.
MTN will become significant because MTN alone is 60% of the market. You know, so even if we have not been feeling it as much before, more people will start to feel it once MTN get into that space.
Right.
There is no doubt about that. Now, if you try to now stack that beside the financial inclusion that the federal government is trying to drive, is contrary.
Sounds counterproductive.
It's counterproductive. People are going to we need to get to that point where once you have a phone, a SIM card is all you need to be able to participate in financial services. In fact, you can get to the SIM card becoming your account number, and all those kind of level. All those level of inclusion requires the telcos. You can't do without them to drive this financial inclusion. But if we have now chased away these customers with charges there and there and that, then that financial inclusion may never happen.
Well, we will talk in detail about financial inclusion because we cannot run away from it. But Francis, let me come to you. Can you please expatiate further what it takes? What is USSD in detail? Can you break it down so that our listener can understand you better?
Okay. Yeah. So USSD is one of the many services offered by telcos. And it actually means unstructured supplementary service data. Now, this service is what allows a phone user to be able to access remote services on a third-party platform or on the platform of the telco without the use of the internet. So it has always been an advantage for people who don't have access to the internet, or if your internet is fluctuating, to still be able to have access to services. And it's not new. We use it all the time. Every time you check your balance on a phone, you check your airtime balance, you're buying airtime, you're using the USSD transaction. Every time you dial something, start something, it's USSD. Now, that's on one side. So if that feature is available and can be provided, the service can be provided by the telco, it only makes sense that they extend that feature to the banking services, or DFS, which is digital financial services, which means that from your phone now, you can dial a set of digits that would allow you to be able to make requests to your bank, to your insurer, or any other service provider, even when you don't have access to the internet. Now, that's the whole idea behind it. But let's come back to how it works.
Right.
So the telco, every time you start a session is usually 20 seconds. So when you initiate a session, the telco is expected to provide a connection between you and the service you're trying to get, say maybe a bank. And in that session, they would sort of guarantee that whatever request you make gets to the third party. From my understanding of it, it's a charged service. That we're hearing now that they've not been charging. I think there's a bit of misconception. They've always been charging.
Oh, okay.
There are two ways to it.
Okay.
It is either prepaid or it's postpaid. Or I should say it is either direct or indirect. It is either the organization or the business that are making the request so that is paying for it, or the customer that is making the request that is paying for it. So if we've not been talking about paying charges all the while, it means it's the organization that must have been paying for it. Either that they're deducting the money as bank charges. They just put everything together and call it bank charges. We talk about all these things. We can't explain what the bank charges are. Now we're beginning to see. So I like to think that everybody's complaining the charges are getting too much. So they are thinking, so why should we be the one to collect the money? After all, the telco has, because it's a charge service, so the telco needs to collect their money. So if the business organization, the banks now, are saying that they don't want to be the ones to collect the money, then the telco will say, then they will collect the money themselves.
So let me understand this. So the telcos already have this infrastructure through which the bank tries to reach the customer to transact business. The infrastructure is already there, and there is a cost for the banks to use that infrastructure to reach the customer and vice versa to have that transaction done. So we can safely assume that previously the banks have been paying for that cost, and either it's being paid up front or it's been calculated into the bank charges. For some banks, transfers to accounts on the same bank costs less than all banks than transfers to other banks. So for some it's 20 naira, some it's 52 naira, 50 kobo. So these amounts that the banks have been charging, could it have been sufficient to cover for the cost of using the USSD code? Remember, this includes checking your account balance, like you've mentioned, and maybe just even checking your BVN. So you might not have actually, transacted business with any other party. It might just be at your end, yet you're being charged for it. Were the banks before now, in your opinion, able to have paid for this with the charges they were getting from the bank users?
Well, this is what I would like to say. The 52 naira that we're used to, that one is for transferring charge from one bank to another bank. But there is also a 20 naira, I don't know if people have noticed, that is also deducted when you make a USSD transfer.
Correct.
That is the USSD charge. So it's the bank that has been charging the money. Now, they offer convenience, but what we don't get in all those adverts that offers convenience is the underlying charge. You can check your BVN, you can check your bank account balance and all that. You are doing it at a price. Nothing is free.
But now, does that mean that the banks haven't been remitting that money to the telcos? I mean, if they are charging it, does that mean they've not been paying the telcos for that service?
I don't have answer to that. But
my thoughts, huh?
There is a document, there is an NCC document, which I'm looking at right now, that talks about the cost of USSD transactions. And the minimum is pegged at 1 naira 63 kobo, and the maximum is capped at 4 naira 89 kobo. So that means that MNOs, which is mobile network operators, are supposed to find the balance in between. So these are the questions I have that have not been resolved in this document, is that what happens to a failed transaction? Now, a failed transaction could be, from a developer perspective, could be three things. Could be network issue from the mobile network operator, could be a server issue from the bank. So does that mean that the customer keeps paying for failed transaction? If the customer has to bear the brunt for a failed transaction, then that's not fair.
Let's talk more about that pricing. Like you said, the Nigerian Communications Commission has a USSD pricing list, and according to them, a USSD session is 20 seconds, and the cost of a USSD session is 1 naira 63 kobo. That's 1 naira 63 kobo for every 20 seconds. The floor, the minimum, the price floor, that's a price floor. The price cap for every 20 seconds is 4 naira 89 kobo. So it looks like the telcos conveniently went for the roof.
No, that will be empty.
I mean, that's what I'm looking at. If the price floor is 20 for the 20 seconds is 1 naira 63 kobo, and they decided to then charge 4 naira.
What will you do if you were them? You will shoot for
it's
the
business,
bottom.
right?
It's a business.
Right.
You make the most of it.
Then which is why by the time all these suspend it, let's find what's going on. This is how it will help. Because at the end of the day, we might now be able to arrive at something that is fair,
right,
for all parties that are involved in this.
But here is a concern, Bolawon. Here is a concern. If the banks are already calculating this along with bank charges, and they've been deducting from customers, does that mean that they are not paying the services to the telcos?
No.
I mean, the telcos are now saying that, look, we have to collect our own again. So is this is this double payment on the part of the customer, which is the people?
It's most unlikely, considering the kind of organizations that we're talking about. The banks, these are heavily regulated organizations,
right?
Sophisticated. The telcos, they are dealing with sophisticated. Everybody knows what they are doing exactly. So the issue of, and there is no problem of capacity to pay. You've already taken it from a customer, for example, so it's not your money. You just remit it.
Right.
That cannot be the issue. What could be the issue is if the banks are getting the facts from customers for saying what are all these plenty charges that you are putting here, and they are having to continually explain what this is all about. It could be better to say, okay, I won't collect again. Let the telco be collecting on their own. That is a possibility. That is more realistic a possibility than that they were not remitting.
Is this also an argument, Bolaon? Let me stay with you. The allegation of fraud on the part of operators that when banks are wooing their customers as to use our USSD code. Banking can be so sweet. You don't have to go to the bank. Just type these and things will happen like magic. And the customer has no idea whether he's paying for these things or not. Should this have been spelled out while while painting the picture that life is beautiful? Banking can be a lot easier.
We can demand that. I think the customers need to know. If we have not been. But, sometimes they wrap up a lot of things in conditions applied.
Small print.
In small print. When you say conditions,
terms and conditions apply. What are those terms and conditions?
So,
and where are they spelled out?
Most likely, they can get away with clauses like that. But
should they get away with things like this?
No, I think part of what
under terms and conditions apply.
No.
Why can't they?
Legally, I think they will.
Legally, they will. They just told you terms and conditions apply. You didn't read the terms and conditions.
You should find out the terms and conditions.
Right. So here is where I'm coming from. So you have this jingle on radio, and after explaining how they're going to make money, they wrap up how you're going to lose money under terms and conditions.
And you have an obligation
should that
to
apply?
read it. Yes, it will.
You can't read it because it's a jingle on radio.
Yeah, but the terms
should they have spelled it out that this is how much it costs?
You can always ask. Anyway, what I think is the essence of this suspension, it will help us address a lot of things, honestly.
Yes.
We can now insist, or the regulators can now insist, that when you put out commercials like this, you should also tell the customers what the full implications of what this is.
But that would mean they'll be spending more time on those jingles.
Yeah, let them spend more time. They want to make more money.
There will be a way to drop it in just one sentence that we will probably not miss it. If we go a bit back to the bank's side, historically, one of the problems the banks have tried to fix was people having to come into the banking hall to do business.
Right.
It is a very, very costly thing for the bank.
And stressful for the customer.
Very stressful for the customer, very stressful for the staff of the bank. Now, we've now been able to migrate away from that into all this other platform. The platforms come at a cost, no doubt about that, and the cost has to be recovered. But those costs are not as bad as the cost of bringing those people into the banking hall. And this is why we should be able to temper justice with mercy.
Which is what will happen when people see they begin to pay for USSD codes. They rather go back to the banks. Let's talk more about this when we come back from the break. We're looking at the unstructured supplementary service data. That's the USSD. That's what it's called, and that's what it means, and what it means for the financial sector and for telcos in Nigeria. We have Bola Olajade here with us in the studio. On the phone, we have Francis Oko, who is a web developer, explaining the tech side of these things to us. When we come back, we take your calls. We're up on WhatsApp, 08095975805. We apologize if you cannot view us on Facebook and also on YouTube this morning. We apologize for that. But you can reach us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM. WhatsApp also. Please leave us your messages. There are quite a number. We'll read these after the break. Join us for more. I'm Wemimo Adewuni.
And I'm Sheriff Quadry.
More talk, news and sports after this.
back on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
Are sat over it and they've been told to stop that nonsense. That's ripping. You want to kill us? VAT 7 points. They had better be careful. Also, we'll start revolution now.
They are just making everything difficult in Nigeria. I don't know where they want to chase us to. VAT, they increased to 7.5%. Today at the petrol station, they charge 50 naira extra for transaction charge. They're just making things difficult. I don't know where they want us to go in this country. God will help us.
We put NEPA online. I go to supermarket online. If I do like 10,000, charge me like 14 naira. Sometimes if I go to the bank, I want to withdraw money. Or if you want to pay cash, I say no. Go and use your application. You don't charge me for that.
I recharge 150. I can't find it on my phone. Still recharge 100 naira. I can't find it on my phone. It was so upset.
All the policies that has been coming in place as far as the country is concerned are policies that does not favor the masses in the country. Basically, what do you expect? When they pass a law, there's nothing you can do about it. You just have to pay. You understand? But people should also come up and fight against some of these laws and some of these unexpected and corrupt acts.
We need to resist devil, and he must definitely flee away. We are not taking that. That is exploitation. That is very, very bad. It's uncalled for. We will resist it. We don't want it. Why did they want to start inflicting hardship on us? Already we are going through hardship already. They are still inflicting more on us.
Reactions on the USSD charge over the weekend. Of course, Nigerians are not joking when it comes to parting with money. And there were reports from the cable that show that in recent development, telecommunication companies charged customers per USSD session, which differed across networks without exceeding 20 naira per session. However, with this new charge, customers will be required to pay 12 naira for every minute spent using the USSD channel. Also, The Guardian made some reports revealing that a source in the telco industry affirmed that the decision to implement USSD charges was actually made by the bank's chief executive officers, who were not ready to make deductions from the 15 naira they were already charging customers for the telecom firms to maintain the ICT infrastructure on which the platforms currently run, but would rather impose an additional charge on customers to cover for those expenses. The Vanguard earlier this year in August had reported that the NCC had issued an order to all telcos to bring down their unstructured supplementary service data, that's USSD service charges, to not more than 4 naira 89 kobo per session. That, remember that a session is 20 seconds from about 52 naira 50 kobo, particularly if the user were making a mobile money transfer from one bank to another. Remember, once you're transferring or you're doing a transaction, there is a charge on that transaction. But the cost, like we told you earlier, the cost of a USSD session, which is 20 seconds, is 1 naira 63 kobo. That's the floor price, and the cap price for every 20 seconds of USSD session, according to the NCC, is 4 naira 89 kobo per 20 seconds. Telecoms are to operate at cost plus margin, and this determination does not apply to the currently zero-rated USSD services. So there are some services that are zero-rated, and these include customer service. You shouldn't be charged for using that. Balance inquiry, purchase of airtime and data services, and so on, related to telecom service. And this was meant to take effect from the first day of September 2019, remaining valid and binding on all licenses. But some people have told us that to even buy airtime on their networks, they need to have airtime on their phone, without which they cannot use a USSD code at all. Well,
it will be weird, because on all platforms that I've tried to buy airtime, I've never had to pay, including the internet. I may do QuickTeller, I may do some other platform. It is zero cost.
For using the USSD.
For using USSD, I said it would be strange to see that you're being charged. It will be strange.
But this happens, right?
I don't think so. I don't believe it happens.
Well, someone said to me, I've not seen it happen, but we'll go to the phone lines soon and we'll hear from the listener. Were you being charged to use the USSD? I find it strange that you want to check your balance. You need to have money in your account to check your balance or to buy airtime. That's going to be very weird.
To buy airtime is the one I'm particular about. I don't think so. I don't think anybody paid to buy airtime.
Francis, very quickly, let's track back a little and talk about that concern that you have as regards the failure when you're trying to use USSD, services. I know that I've tried severally sometimes, and you keep dialing the USSD code, and the thing will come back, and if you say wrong MMI something, give you one notice, and you keep trying until it gets through. So the thing is, who pays for this failure in process, in transaction? Because if you're charging me without getting this service, isn't that a disservice to me?
Yes. Before I get to that, I want to quickly mention that to buy airtime and data, as contained in that document, it's not a charge service.
Yes.
Okay.
It's zero rated.
It's
Yes.
zero rated. Now, but to check balance, I think people need to be able to understand the difference. Now, there's a difference between checking the balance, your airtime balance on your phone, or your data balance, and checking your account balance. So checking your account balance is a service to the bank. And at that point, I don't know if that one is free. So then getting back to the question you asked. So if we're looking at this as the mobile network operators are saying, we're offering you a service to help you make a request to the bank, and as such, someone needs to pay. The question is now, when you're unable to make a successful request, the document does not in any way contain any part that says who would be responsible for that or how that part will be managed.
For a failed session.
Yes, for a failed transaction, because that's a possible outcome.
Yes.
So I feel in the bid to look at all these things and try to regulate it, it's important to look at all the possible outcomes.
Right.
And that outcome has not been touched.
Right. There's also a report from the cable. So we're looking at all aspects of this. That reports that value-added services providers of telecoms were unhappy with the financial institutions' reliance on telecoms, noting that they've been adding nothing to their sector. So that, I'm quoting, according to the NCC's head quality of service engineer, Edoyemi Ogo, I quote, the argument is that that is the banks, have not been contributing to the telecom sector as they're not paying annual operating levy, whereas they're offering the same services being offered by these vast operators who are actually licensed. So while telcos pay to acquire short codes for their services, banks get theirs for free and they're making the most money. Twist it a bit. The president of Wireless Service Providers Association of Nigeria, which is the umbrella body of telecom vast providers, Mr. Chijioke Eze, said the sales of airtime by banks through their automated teller machines or USSD numbers should not have been allowed by the telecoms regulator because they are not contributing to the networks and they're profiting from it. According to him, I quote, banks are not supposed to be selling recharge cards because in the first place, this is not what they are licensed to do. They're just extracting values from the telecom sector without adding to it. What do you think, Bilal?
I think it's an incomplete picture to paint. It's an incomplete picture because the airtime that the bank is selling, who is the ultimate beneficiary of
whose airtime are they selling?
Whose airtime? Do banks have airtime to sell? The airtime they're selling is the telco's airtime.
Right.
So the ultimate
Absolutely.
beneficiary of that sale is still the telco. Well, they may make some income from that because it's on their platform. But that does not take the fact away that banks don't have airtime. It is telcos that have airtime. They're just helping to sell.
They're just marketing kind of and making some profit
They are making
from
some profit. However, if there is a way, because he pointed out to the fact that they are not paying certain fees and all the rest, that is for the government to look carefully. If there is a place they can also put their hands and get some income, by all means.
Francis, let me come to you on this other issue of we're trying to digitize everything. We're trying to go cashless. The other day on the morning Crossfire, someone calling and complained of being charged 15 naira for carrying out a transaction above 1,000 naira or thereabouts. So that particular on POS, and that means that particular regulation has kicked off, and now we're talking about USSD charges again.
That is a stamp duty on POS transactions.
So I'm going to ask you, Francis, what do you think the implication will be on the cashless policy that we have so tried to start?
Well, I think everything, they're not being strategic about it, because you can't be pushing people to cashless policy and be making it difficult for them to use it. by putting up a lot of charges. Of course, these things will come at a price. I think the government and these organizations, the banks and the telcos need to sit down and have a strategy. We need to have an understanding. If we're solving a problem by going cashless, and yet you're introducing a lot of the other charges, it means that you would see people would prefer to go to the bank than pay all these extra charges, which means the initial problem they are trying to solve, everything is defeated. So I think they need to have a long-term vision. They need to look at the numbers. I was listening to the news. The numbers really count. Right. Let them compute these numbers. Let them do proper data analysis, do business intelligence before these policies are made. Oftentimes, you see that policies are made, and then after a while, they go back and they're making changes. And then you begin to wonder, didn't they think through these processes before? Didn't they think through the effects? For every decision, we have a population of about 200 million. So it means that for every 10 kobo, it's great. By the time you look at the digits, you put everything together, the effect is massive. And I think that they should do all these things before they make policies, because it looks rash every time they do it.
Right. What interests me is that the Minister for Communication said he had no idea this was going on. Well, you believe this is possible?
Yes.
That other telcos had been charging. MTN was the last to join the train, yet the minister had no idea.
It's possible. He's not aware. It's possible.
How is it possible?
That's interesting.
Is he not supposed to be in charge of the sector to start with?
You have a document that guides tariff. If there's a chargeable service, it's not as if they now come to him and say, Minister, we want to start charging this. It's already a chargeable service. Do you understand what I'm saying? So there's no special memo coming to his desk for him to come and that we want to start charging.
They don't need his permission to do all of these things.
He has granted a permission, or the minister has granted a permission, or the regulator. Once they say you can do these charges, you can do this charge.
So
unless customers complain.
Why was he suspended?
The
USSD charge. I mean, if they have the permission, if there is a document that says they can charge, then why is he suspending it?
It's suspending.
Does that mean that he's unaware of what is obtainable in that sector?
No, it now needs to get on top of exactly what are the details, putting all the cards on the table. Now we have a situation in which the biggest player is about to come into that space. And
I find this very hard and contentious. Why do we need to come to the table when they have a backup, when they have a backing from a document that says they can charge?
Probably because...
So what you're suggesting is that we should allow it to run then?
Because it's already on the document that they can charge.
When customers now make massive complaints, like happened on Sunday, then it behoves on the NCC to then look into it.
Exactly.
Francis, what do you think?
This is what I think. I think these charges have been there, but the attention is being shifted from the banks. They have been the devil. So now they are saying, don't blame us for this. Telco, it's your money, charge it. Now, telcos have to send a message, pass the information around before they start making the charges, which is why everybody is shouting now. But these charges have been there. So if they're suspending it now, I like to assume that everything just goes back to what it was before. We need to understand that we will still be paying for this. The question is it through the bank or through the telco?
Where would the cost be put? Let me tell you what the CBN...
And then it's also a negotiated amount.
Right, since there is a document.
Yeah, there's a band.
Here's what the CBN governor said about this. I'm quoting him. He says, at the time, we came to a conclusion that the use of USSD is a sunk cost. What we mean by a sunk cost is that it is not an additional cost on the infrastructure of the telecom company. But the telecom companies disagreed with us. They said it was an additional investment on infrastructure, and so for that reason, they need to impose it. So the question is the USSD charge an additional investment on the existing infrastructure of telecoms? Francis?
I have my comments on that.
Okay. I would say that there's a termination cost. Okay, let's put it this way. So to guarantee that you would have access to the channel for that period means that someone else, I don't want to say someone else is being denied because they have enough bandwidth, but then they're rendering a service. So I don't know how to put that. But then if you are
but does it further stretch the existing infrastructure they have, or is it a sunk cost, meaning they already have the infrastructure and this is just running on existing infrastructure which they just need to maintain, and for which they're already charging when you have transactions?
Does maintenance come at the cost?
Does right? Does maintenance come at a cost, at a cost enough to then charge per use?
Well, that's a question that will be difficult to answer. But then, if you look at it from the business angle, they would always find a cost attached to it.
Bala, what do you think before we head to the phone?
It's like saying the platform for doing transfer is in existence. They are not building it every time that you transfer.
Right.
So why do they charge for it every time you transfer?
Which is what the CBN governor was arguing.
So number one,
before you count number one, so if banks are making money from each transaction, why shouldn't the telcos? I mean, if you're using USSD to carry out transactions and banks are making money from it, then why are we saying that the banks, the telcos already have infrastructure, so they shouldn't make money from
it?
But shouldn't this be that the banks should be paying the telco for that service?
Exactly.
So if it's becoming an issue for the bank, which apparently it is, they're saying, go take your money. I'm taking my own money for my transfer. We're using your infrastructure to deliver this other service. Take your money.
From the customer.
Yes.
So the customer pays for using that telco to reach his bank.
Your customer has an alternative. It's like saying
Which is to go to
they are
the bank.
charging you ATM, whatever.
Right.
So I don't want
Right.
to then walk to your bank and go and queue up.
Let's head to the phone lines, and here the phone lines have been buzzing for the past 20 minutes, and WhatsApp is agog with messages. We're live on YouTube. Yes, you can watch us there. Here are the phone numbers if you'd like to join us right now.
Call us on 01-277-0993, 01-277-1993, 01-277-2993, and 01-277-3993. This is Nigeria Info. We are listening.
Let's start with WhatsApp. Gosh, Deji, your message is very long. I'll try to summarize. This is a lecture by itself. It says, good morning to everyone in the studio. Banks already charge 20 naira each time you use a USSD feature, including of recharging numbers not associated with your bank registered phone number. So it says, I believe it more than covers the cost of providing that service and enough to have a tidy profit. Let me summarize. It says about the price hitting in the TNCs, it's a lie by omission, and a lie is considered fraudulent if it misrepresents a material fact, and on he goes. So thank you for that. Let's move over quickly here to no name. Please include your name when you send your messages. Joseph from Lekki says using USSD without data is impossible.
No, you don't need data.
No, you don't need data.
No. I mean, I got stuck on that first. No. It says he has tried different networks and different banks. First Bank USSD is impossible without a bank card. No. Do you understand what USSD is? That's a star something hash.
Yeah.
Okay, that's USSD. On WhatsApp, we have a message from Chooks from Ikeja. Says, I'm surprised these charges are dominating conversations now. I have experience in telco and banking industries, and I know that charges for using USSD have been on. While MTN charge from your bank account on session fees, other telcos charge from your airtime. That's why you get insufficient fund as a response if you want to dial any USSD using Airtel line. I really think it's business gone bad that has brought this issue to the front burner.
Indeed. Let's get on with the calls now. Hello, good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning. This is Lasisi Olatunde.
Welcome to the show, Lasisi.
Welcome.
Yeah, I'm calling from Moshi.
Okay.
Good to have you.
The issue about the telcos, the banks, I had a very difficult experience with them.
Okay, can you summarize it in 30 seconds?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Alax, the digital bank from Wemimo Bank.
Right.
They introduced this USSD code *945. At the time, I was using MTN as my basic line with them. Whenever I use that code, I will not be deducted from my line. But at the end of the month, probably I use it twice or three times just for the month. I would just receive a debit alert of 200 and something naira. I went to the bank and complained to the bank. The response from them is the MTN is the only network that doesn't charge during the transaction. So at the end of the month,
They still charge.
MTN will now then subtract or debit my account without their own knowledge. That was what I was told. Without their knowledge.
Without the bank's knowledge.
Yes.
How is that possible? That's not possible.
Impossible.
No, that's Lasisi.
They have not told you that.
With all due respect, Lasisi, that's not possible.
No, that's not possible. I mean, the money was charged from your account. How come your bank didn't know about it? Let's head over to Twitter. Ade Bear says, where did you start from? It says some wrong things I'm hearing. Banks don't sell airtime directly from telcos. InterSwitch integrates their quick teller service with banks for airtime sale and other bill payments to customers. Well, telcos don't believe so simply. They believe they should be making more money from that. Right. Job Forever says government is calling for cashless economy, yet deducting you left and right after using even ATM. It shows I don't need a bank. I can keep my money under a dog hole. Imagine the minister not being aware of what's going on with the USSD.
Indeed. Back to the phone lines. Hello, good morning to you. We lost our call. They try and call us back if you can. Nigeria. Oh, okay. All right. Sorry about that. Nigeria Info, good morning to you.
Hello.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Yes, I'm so happy I could get across to you guys. I've been trying to call you for a long time. The first time caller.
Wow. Welcome to the show. Good to have you.
So the reason why I'm calling is because I'm an IT specialist and I specialize in telco IT.
Fantastic.
So I have better understanding of this whole USSD issue. So I said let me call to share my knowledge with you.
All right, go ahead very quickly, please.
Basically, what happens is that every session that happens is being charged, right, by MTN. Now, what now happens is that because MTN cannot charge those sessions in real time, the banks are required to buy those sessions up front.
Oh.
Do you understand? Yes. Because it's 20 seconds. So if, for example, your transaction is more than 20 seconds, it means that they'll probably charge you whatever they're charging you per session. And they cannot keep track of all those things in real time. So MTN requires that the bank buy the sessions up front.
Okay.
So there's always been a reconciliation issue. At the end of the month, MTN will say you spend this GTB up front. The bank will say we spend that. So now they're saying, okay, you know what, since you have the problem with what we're telling you,
charge it straight.
Can't collect our money by ourselves. So that is the problem.
Right. Thank you for explaining it that way. It makes a lot of sense.
It does.
Like, we can't keep arguing. Let's just get it directly. Let's head back to WhatsApp. Whoops. This is from Toby from Lekki says, I personally don't have much problem with the USSD charges because even we as customers, if you have to go to the bank for all these transactions, you will pay more of the USSD charges. But my problem is in the area of failed transaction. Will the money charge be refunded or is it gone? CY from Apapa says, don't mind the suspension of the USSD charge. They suspended it just for the operators to include them in the deal. Oh, what a theory.
Indeed. Nigeria Info, good morning to you.
I thought you should introduce yourself to me. Hello.
Yes, good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning. My name is Olomuyiwa, calling from Nigeria.
Welcome, Muyiwa.
I don't want to repeat what people have been saying because even me, I'm a free team. If I send money to 5 people in a day now, so they will be charging me 15 naira, 15 naira, 15 naira, 15 naira now for 5 people. I think when they oppress us very well, then we will demand for accountability from those that we are calling our government. Good morning.
Good morning. Joseph responds to what he calls a vehement response to his post. He insists that USSD services for saving accounts with First, Stanbic, and Airtel. I don't understand that, but he insists that he uses data for his USSD.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how that works.
That's from a technology perspective, no.
Francis, what does this mean, really?
Well, from the way this technology is designed, it's not supposed to require data to make a USSD transaction. That's the whole idea, which is why if you have a Nokia 3310, you should be able to do a USSD transaction. Yes.
Okay.
Indeed.
All right. Let's see this message from Tolulokpe Adeli from Oregon. Says, anytime I need to credit my line with my bank code and it happens that I don't have credit at all, what I do is to first borrow airtime from my service provider and then use the borrowed airtime to buy airtime from my bank.
What a life.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be charged to buy airtime. So
yeah, that should be zero rated
Yes,
cost. So
that's
these telcos and banks still have questions to answer. Looks like they've been charging for even zero rated transactions.
Hello, good morning to you.
Hello, good morning.
You're on Nigeria Info. What's your name, please?
Yeah, my name is Oladipo.
Good to have you.
Yeah, I'm a statistician and a computer scientist.
Fantastic.
And I understand everything that's been said. The truth is, there has not been sincerity between the banks and the telco.
Yeah, that's what it looks like right now.
Every single USSD transaction, we are being charged. Sometimes I have about 4 banks, and there is a particular bank that charges me as much as 10,000 naira at the end of the month.
Oh, wow.
What?
On different transactions. And when I go, they tell me, oh, you do this, you do that, and all of that. The cashless policy that the government is pushing is going to hit a brick wall very soon. And the issue is we are charged for ATM card. We are charged every, I think, 4 months. Every 4 years, we pay for new ATM cards. We are charged for POS ATM card maintenance. You know, everything is all about charges.
Indeed.
In a month, from my 4 banks, I am being charged nothing less than almost 25 to 30,000 naira.
Wow.
It is crazy.
It is.
It is. Thank you so much for calling. But we must go now. Thank you all for joining this conversation. We hope that we have been able to convince you and not to confuse you about what the USSD code is, how much it really costs, the floor price and the cap price, and what the telcos can do. Let's follow this conversation on social media at Nigeria Info FM. Big thanks to Bola Olojede. He's been here since the front pages. Thank you, Bola.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Francis Oko is a web developer telling us about how the back end works. Thank you so much, Francis.
You're welcome.
And thank you for joining us all morning. Big thanks also to Zainab Yakin, Tosia Kenride, and Yvonne Ohaifo for assisting. Babatunde Abdulsalami makes it possible for you to watch us online. And also big thanks to Good News Ndukwe, who went out to get reactions for us. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more conversations. I'm Wemimo Adewuni. I'm up on social media at Wemimo Sports.
You can follow me on social media as well. All the platforms at Sheriff Quadry. Quadry with R-Y. And Sheriff is double F as well. My name is Sheriff Quadry. You have a fantastic day. Bye for now.